Okay, I'll call the meeting of the Morrow County Commission to order, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up is our public comment. And first we'll ask for in the room, and then I'll ask for anybody on Zoom. If there is someone, I'll explain the rule, otherwise we won't. Is there anybody in the room that has a public comment? Is there anybody on Zoom that wants to make a public comment? Please raise your hand.
Don't see any.
Anybody? Okay. All right, now I think the first item is consideration adoption of the agenda.
Any changes, man? No, sir. I'll move for approval as presented. I second.
Moving second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. And we'll jump right into our department reports. First up is the Sheriff's Office monthly report, and that's it. Brian.
Morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Not sure where to start. Don't have a lot. Staffing is holding strong. We are moving forward to the only openings we have within the agency is in dispatch, and we have one in backgrounds. So far, they're moving along, so that's a good thing compared to the last couple that we've done. So that's promising. And we've had a couple search and rescue missions, which were successful, which were nice. Unfortunately, we don't have any snow, which is a bittersweet because we have those new machines and haven't even been able to take them out one time. So kind of hoping for a little bit so we can at least do some training on them. Everything within the agency is running pretty good. We all of our capital outlay projects are on track to be completed by June 1st, which is exciting because last year we came a little short, and so we're only a couple days away and all of our new vehicles will be out. As you guys know, the snowmobiles have been received. The firearms project is coming to an end. We're just kind of waiting for delivery, hopefully within the next 14 to 21 days is what's projected. Our drones have been purchased and we have them, and we have staff that's getting trained up on those, learning their certifications and stuff, so we can get them deployed out in the field more. The command truck, that's going to be an ongoing process. That's a large project, so we figured that right now it's projected probably another 12 months before that one is completed. And that's the one that was funded through the Amazon funds. So we're good, setting good there. Dispatch program, getting our workstations updated, which are definitely needed. Most of the equipment is in. They're waiting for one more screen, and then hopefully by the end of March, I believe it's the end of March is projected to have that project completed. So we're setting good on projects. Staffing is doing well. The staff is liking the 24-hour shifts. The numbers are the results of going to those 12-hour shifts have been positive, financially and just morale wise. They're getting their days off and less call outs, less overtime. We're seeing less sick leave usage, vacation usage. So right now everything's running pretty good inside the sheriff's office.
That's a great report.
So yeah, and we get more tickets out there. Would there be any question?
I just have one comment. I previously joked about not having seen a deputy out my way, and I saw one this week. So
Outstanding. We're trying to get them out there. So, all right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Okay, next up, we got our emergency management quarter report. Steve.
Morning, gentlemen. So mine will be relatively brief as well, but I wanted to highlight a couple of areas that we're working on. One to be training. And I'll just go down the list and then pending any questions at the end, we can get out of your hair completely. So what I'm focused on right now is the LEPC partners industry, primarily up north. I'm reviewing their emergency response plans to identify gaps and training areas for us to move forward. Those will probably be, and I'll tie this in at the end, annexes to our county EOP. Because it's not for public consumption, but if somebody needed access for that. So that's primarily used by law and fire. But we'll get those in formalized moving forward. We have coming up this month and next month, the CGS dress rehearsal. This is our annual nuclear, or we do it every year, but this is an odd year. So normally in February, we'll do CGS as a dress rehearsal, followed by Hanford next month with FEMA auditing our operations out of the EOC. I just got last night, CGS was shut down last night, no explanation. So I have nothing on that to give you, was waiting for information. So I would say based on that information, the 24th of February might be in the air. But that's an invite. You guys are more than welcome. Please come and say hi. We should have contracted full FEMA staff here for the audit, March 24th. And you'll start to see those emails that I put out when we stand up EOC with an order, et cetera, on February 24th. We're also identifying collaborative opportunities with other first responders in the county. We have additional equipment, software, et cetera, search and rescue as an application. So Cal Topo, you've seen that word, SAR Topo. That's a great application to tie in and give everybody overall visibility for command and control. And it's basically a force multiplier. So we're incorporating that. We've completed our training internally, and we're looking to expand that for our other agencies. So that's ongoing. I think we have a meeting tomorrow morning for that. So I just covered the software integration between agencies. Exercises, we've done 2, I think, since the last time I talked to you, 2 or 3. I would highlight the one with the wind industry out of Sunflower Flats. That was outstanding. We got Paul out there for the health piece. That wound up being a great exercise, doing a rescue for somebody who got fell off trap, broken limbs, et cetera. Identifying how to bring in air assets if needed, access for hospital, for ambulances, et cetera. So that was a real good exercise. Also coming up, next Terra does one annually as a tabletop, so I'll be doing that here week after next as well. Additional training, we did hospital active shooter, Sheriff's Department did. I think the AR on that one went well, some good lessons learned, et cetera. Certifications, I just completed the GO 191. It's a ICS cert for emergency operations interface between multiple EOCs. So that was pretty good training too. Focused on right now, COOP, which is a nice acronym. Basically, it's a continuity of government. So if we had a major catastrophe, whatever it may be, you guys are out, your helicopter went down, whatever the case may be, the line of succession for those financial and administrative decisions, right? So there's a lot of fundamental groundwork that needs to be done to be able to present and go through training so you folks can make some decisions on where that goes moving forward. And that's a calendar year 26 for me. Into April, we'll continue our OEM preparedness workshop. Basically what that does is it creates a work plan for the emergency managers in the Eastern region on what we intend to accomplish in the next fiscal year. So I'll be able to report on that where we're at. But in essence, it'd be the same train of thought that we've done before, exercises and training. I'd like to focus on that. Then we can identify gaps in our partners. And then finally, we're currently working on the county wildfire protection plan. So we've got all the appropriate stakeholders in that as a core group. You'll probably hear a little bit more from Tamara on that, but we've got soil and water, fire, OEM or OSFM, planning, emergency management. So that's an ongoing process. I think we're 2 or 3 meetings in. We're just developed the scope to do that formally. We got away from that with some personnel transitions over the past few years. So basically, we're just going to formalize that plan. There's no legal requirement for the CWPP. However, it accents our NHMIP for funding opportunities down the road, which are all still up in the air in accordance with my last meeting, right? So lots of positive, shiny words, but at the end of the day, show me the money, right? We're not quite there yet. And then finally, the EOP update, that's a calendar year for this year because it's due next year. So we're working on doing that update, minimizing the scope, so it minimizes the cost. Our EOP is pretty solid. All the fundamental items are in there. It's just going to be an update with review with the right contractor, so we don't have some of the issues that we saw in our NHMIP. So that's my focus currently, pending any questions,
I don't. Anybody else got any
comments,
questions?
concerns,
If you
complaints?
could send a calendar for all these trainings, of course, I'm not gonna make every one of them, but it'd be interesting to know, if I've got time to make one, it'd be fun.
Absolutely. I currently share my calendar with the sheriff and undersheriff. If you would like invites, Outlook invites for those,
Yeah, it'd be great.
no problem. All three of you or just you, Mr. Peterson?
I'll take a look at them. See
Okay.
how I do.
But just so you know what's going on. Yeah, too easy.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. All right, weed department is Corey online. Let's see on Zoom. Let's see.
I think he was expecting it to be just written.
Oh, yeah, I think he was,
He's-
training.
Yes, he's,
Okay, then planning department monthly report. Tamara.
Um,
I'll be right down the hall.
yeah, grab it. I think you might be surprised we're moving so quickly.
was gonna quiz Corey about how the biocontrol for thistles was going. So he said that they've released some,
Oh, they did.
or they've somewhere in his report, what does he say?
I missed that. She'll be right here.
No, we're zooming.
You are really fast. I was talking to Eric. Good morning. My apologies for being late. I don't have a super lengthy monthly update. For the record, Tamara Mabbott, Planning Director. Let's see, anything new? Have a new energy project. Just received the notice of intent from the state, so I'll be preparing a letter for the board to consider. This would be the first stage of that project called Well Springs. We are working on permits for substations that we think are related to this project. It's been a very fragmented process for this particular project. Took me until yesterday talking with the state a couple times, and we both put two and two together that they're permitting the project and they're doing substations here. They're also permitting the substations as part of the state permit. And then they're doing a transmission line with 4 different options as a separate matter. So I'm only sharing that, don't want to prejudice any applications that may eventually come before you. Just to illustrate, sometimes these large projects have so many nuances and we have to piece together what's happening.
Can we ask the developers to just tell us?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I sure
Just-
think we can. It didn't even occur to me until I was putting together the packet for next week's planning commission meeting. And I wanted to make sure that I was understanding what parts were at FSEC and what parts were here, and they've applied in both places for them, which is unusual. So I think this is all part of the rush of renewable energy that we expected, so that they get these projects built and qualify for that tax credit. So I was expecting at some point to be really busy with multiple projects, and this is probably an indication of signs of things to come. So speaking of renewable energy, just this morning, a few of us got notice we were selected to participate in NACO's Rural Energy Academy. So are there 3 or 4 of us? Commission?
yes.
Yes, okay. Gotcha. Okay. 2 of us from the planning department, which will be good.
Before I know we're Poplar Springs, but
Sure.
I didn't get a chance to see where What's their plan for goal 3 on at the FSEC? Are they gonna do something like Sunstone or what are they? Gonna do?
That's also a good question. Because until we get through this afternoon, we've been pretty busy. I haven't even got to that yet, but thank you for that reminder. I don't know if they'll include a mitigation component in the letter that planners usually send to the board for your consideration. We could mention that we've adopted both rules and I'm not sure which set of rules they'll follow. Actually, I am not sure. I need to take a closer look at that. And if they address the goal 3 exception, if that will also include some mitigation like we have, which was a nice precedent that was set in the county.
Yeah, everybody gets to look at their plan that they've got. And
Mhm.
through. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good. Okay. Clint included a paragraph in there about our Columbia River Heritage Trail concept plan. And that will come before you this afternoon as part of a goal 8 comprehensive plan update. We're excited about that. Also excited to have our internal meeting and talk about that next step, which would be implementation. And we've already had a couple of those with county administrator, assistant county administrator, park staff, and planning staff. Stephen included a nice map. He added another layer with a soil class filter and he showed a couple of those examples. He also updated some information on the Energy Explorer, which is a terrific tool. We have new code compliance work and just last week or 2 weeks ago, we got Public Works and the Sheriff's Office and Planning together and figured out a way to address at least one long-standing code enforcement problem. Some people hauling abandoned RVs outside of Green Acres lot. We don't have funding for that, but the road department does have some, and they're in the road right away. So we know where they're coming from. We're trying to figure out how to track them so we can assign the cost to an owner. So Eric, that's actually what Eric and I were just talking about when Stephen came in and told me it was time to come here today. So it's a long process. It's unusual. People don't tend to just abandon RVs, but it happens out at that RV park.
Well, it's becoming a lot more common in the state.
They usually don't abandon RVs that are in good shape, that
That's
have
the
any
problem.
values.
Yeah.
True, yeah. And then the cost, Caitlin's done, our compliance planner's done a lot of work on the cost and where to haul them. And if they have asbestos, that increases the cost and she can take care of the titling piece. So it's really an interdepartmental effort and the undersheriff's been great, really supportive of it also. So planning and sheriff and public works. So plenty of work happening on the waterfront with the Clean Water Consortium. The roadmap project, we're working on scheduling for March as another steering committee meeting, and then we're gonna have another public information opportunity. I think it's back in our term to have it back in Morrow County again. That really looks at bringing the general public an opportunity to present to them and get their input on both the public water system options and the non-connection options. The non-connection are those wells that are pretty remote and different ideas of what to happen there. Let's see. I've participated in the Boardman Source Water Protection Plan 2 meetings out of, I think, 5, just because of scheduling conflicts and really my role there is to look at it in terms of the Clean Water Consortium interest and just general water issues. So it's fairly common for cities to have a source water protection plan, and I don't know whose idea it was at the city of Boardman. I think it's a really good idea. So they have operating an emergency protocol in place to just make sure that water source is protected. It's also cross-referenced in the natural hazard mitigation plan. The Tower Road Interchange Area Management Plan, we have scheduled a joint work session with the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners for March. And we'll have Kittleson and Associates, the consultant, come out and explain all of the technical piece. We've had good public involvement, and Policy Advisory Committee, Commissioner Winholt has been on that. So before we take it to formal process with the Planning Commission and the board, we'll have a work session. And Eric's been, from Public Works, has been tied into that also. We'll adopt an overlay zone to protect that first quarter mile, 1320 feet from the intersection of the state highway to the south. And a lot is happening there. A lot of other development that's underway there. And so when we get that interchange area management plan, it will give us another tool to help alleviate both construction and as-built traffic. So more to come on that. We're finalizing the scope of work for a transportation system plan update. That won't cost us money because if you recall, we secured a grant for that back in maybe even late 2024. And we'll be pleased that the IAMP project, that transportation planning piece, will be finished when we start the transportation system plan. Good news, we hired a principal planner who will start next Tuesday, the 24th. So comes with a lot of experience. I didn't count the years, but it's right about, I know it's more than 30 years. So he retired and said, I really miss it. He's a real planner.
Yeah, but no, contingent upon BOC approval.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Nat. I didn't want to jump the gun on that, but it's really delightful. Good news. We'll still need to talk about some succession planning, but we're a few years out from that. So this is going to help in the short term get us through pretty heavy workload that we have. I don't know if Steve Freeland mentioned it. I saw him here earlier, but he's been pushing us to do the community wildfire protection plan update. I was not looking forward to that because it's an important project, but we have plenty of other projects going on. Kevin Payne from the Soil Water Conservation District has really agreed to be the project manager. We need to allocate some funding. Kevin and I chatted, and we have a little bit of funding to hire. I can't remember what that fund was called.
Pending review and action.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Sorry.
And public notice and.
All of that stuff,
Yeah.
right. But the good news is Steve Freeland really took the lead and put together the team of the State Fire Marshal, SWCD, myself and Stephen from planning. And there's a private firm who really specializes in these, not the state agency who did our natural hazard mitigation plan. And so our role will, in terms of the planning department, we'll really focus on Stephen's work on the maps. And then Kevin will expedite the process, provided we can find funding to hire this third-party person. Unlike the natural hazard mitigation plan, it's not necessary that it's updated every 5 years, but it's a very good idea, and a lot of things have changed. So I'm excited to have a robust interagency involvement with that project. And more to come. We're just putting some pieces together, getting some cost estimates and other things. I bugged our finance director for just a little bit of time to see if it's even possible to fund that, and we're working on that. There might be some outside funding to work on that, but it's gonna more to come on the funding piece. Anyway, those are the highlights.
Okay, any other questions for Tamara?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Sorry again, I was in the other room. I'll pay attention online now to see.
Okay, Treasurer's quarterly investment report. That's, unless she's on the written report.
Hand raised.
Oh, there's Jaylene. Okay, Jaylene, go ahead, go for it.
So So far, you guys haven't really had too many questions regarding the investment report, but I do have GPA on right now. In case you have any specific questions about where we're standing right now, and what our goals are going forward.
And yeah, GPA, you can unmute and start your video if you'd like.
Oh, thank you. Hello, it's good to be with you today. I just wanted to point out a couple things about your portfolio, and I'm really excited for the county. So for some background from us, we manage many counties here in the state of Oregon, including Morrow County. We have Multnomah County, Washington County, Lane County, Marion County, Klamath County, and Jefferson County. So we started with you about 2 years ago and really focused on supporting a disciplined investment strategy that is based on the cash flow needs there at the county, as well as the ongoing balances. And so I'm really pleased with the results. Jaylene and I sat down as you had tax receipts coming in. You're right now sitting at about a 50-50 balance between investments in U.S. Treasury and agency and high-grade corporates. That portfolio is yielding at about a 4.10. You also have the LGIP balances at the state. That yield is right now at 4%. So what's happening is we've now built this nice portfolio of investments that will stay stable, and we expect short-term rates to drop, which the LGIP will continue to drop with that. And so over time, the county will have more stable interest income coming into this next year. So I'll just stand for any questions on that. You have a fact sheet in front of you, and we're always here to address any questions.
I don't.
No, thank you.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
Thanks. It's good to hear that, we're getting investment, a fair rate of return. And like you said, some of it's going to be kind of more stable.
Yep.
There's drops. So it's good to hear.
Hey, thank you.
Okay. Jaylene, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, not really today. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. All righty, next up, is our, accounts payable monthly report. Kevin, that's just your written down, okay. And finance department quoted, yeah.
So Kevin's going.
Oh, finance, okay.
I'll talk about the AP. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
So I have a guest today. Not a guest, hopefully a permanent fixture here at the county. This is Michelle Kessler. We have hired her to fill the finance manager role in the finance department. Her first day with us was yesterday, and so she's kind of drinking from a fire hose. She's got a pretty broad career history in various accounting and financial management positions in farming and RV park management. A lot of it local to this area. And she's a Umatilla resident. And we're really happy to have her. I don't know if you want to share anything else.
No. I answer any questions that you have, but
No, just welcome and
Thank
glad
you.
to have somebody here.
Yeah.
Thank you and
Nice to see you.
congratulations, Kevin, for getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I can't tell you how excited I am. So it's all right. So you guys have here. On to I was not able to get a written report prepared. But I do have a number of things I wanted to provide updates on to the Board of Commissioners. First, Tamara had mentioned the wildfire community wildfire protection plan they're working on. I just wanted to give you a little more detail on the funding that she was talking about. I hadn't originally planned on talking about that yet, but if you recall, I think it was 2 years ago or last year, we had accumulated funds from Title III federal funds under the Secure Rural School Act. Those are very restricted funds with very limited uses. And we had expended most of the balance of those funds that we'd accumulated on replacement search and rescue vehicle and equipment for the sheriff's office, which is one of the allowed uses. We have some of that funding left, and I understand that the funding was reauthorized recently. So we expect some additional. When Tamara mentioned that the community wildfire protection plan to me, that's one of the primary indicated and allowed uses of funding is for development of wildfire protection plans and wildfire mitigation activities in communities. So just a discussion point right now. We don't have enough to offset the entire cost of the plan, but a significant piece of it. And as I explore that more and better identify what funding is going to come in, if you recall, there's a pretty substantive process that has to take place before we can spend that. We have to adopt a project and post public notice and take public comment and a 45-day protest period. So we established what that process was when we did the search and rescue vehicle, and so we could certainly handle doing it again. But just want to give you some more details on that one. As you know, we finished our financial audit. We received that update at the last Board of Commissioners meeting. From an audit perspective, we still have a couple of outstanding items that are specific to a single department. If you recall, there is a special audit process called an AUP, or Agreed Upon Procedures, for our public transit department. And that's a requirement specific to the ODOT formula funding agreement. And we had gotten, well, I guess a couple of years ago, we were behind because the county had never done that process, and it was identified to us. And then we had a lot of difficulty because of the shape of the record keeping related to grants from people that predated my time and Stephen's time here. And that was our prior finance managers who spent a lot of time working on reconciling that to a point where we could hand it over to an auditor. That was not completed prior to her departure. And so it's one of those outstanding items still, which leads me to one of my next topic. Because if you recall, the board approved moving forward with the outside accounting services, and we had our kind of an organizational kickoff call, and that's one of the primary objectives that I've put at the top of their priority list to kind of loop themselves in on that and work with our auditors to get balances reconciled to the point where we can hand it over and get caught up on those. And we'll be keeping Department Oregon ODOT in the loop on the progress of that as well. Other activities that they're going to be providing and services they're going to be providing right out of the gate, monthly accounting reconciliations, some of those tasks that we have a hard time getting to. We always get our bank reconciliations done every month, but just general account reconciliations of liabilities and whatnot, we have a tough time addressing those on a monthly basis. So they're going to get some processes stood up in place and take that over right out of the gate, and then again work us towards being audit ready by the end of the fiscal year before we move into that end of year crunch when we're going to have to be balancing fiscal year end with ERP deployment actually at that point and go live, and audit preparation activities. So with the addition of Michelle to the office, that'll be we should be able to gain back some of the ground that we lost over the last few months. Other activities we've had in the last over the last quarter, but really in the last couple of months, we have received some reports from grant compliance reviews, the triennial view with Oregon Health Authority. I imagine that the full report's gonna be coming before the board at some point, relatively soon for presentation. But there were some compliance findings identified, and so we've begun work on developing plans to address those, or at least those that are related to the finance and accounting function. We do still have some outstanding items with the from the grant compliance review with the victim and witness support grant that hopefully will get tied up by the end of March. We identified, this was just within the last couple of weeks, we had to spend some significant time working with the sheriff's office and parole and probation on the grant in aid that they receive from the State Department of Corrections. We were not aware of the previous biennial grant from 2021 to 2023. Or was it 2023 to 2025? No, 2021 to 2023 had not been closed out, so it was still open, and obviously we're well past that point. So we had to, that was before we started taking a different approach on grant accounting. So again, it was another one of those areas where records were a little bit misaligned with what had been reported and what we thought we had. So that was a pretty big lift, but we worked successfully with the sheriff's office and Gina from Community Corrections to reconcile back to fiscal year 2021, and then carry that all the way forward to current. There are a couple of discrepancies that we identified that we have to still work through with Department of Corrections. Nothing material. It's material enough where we need to talk about it because it changes what their understanding was regarding the amount of carryover funds that we had related to that grant. But not material from an overall financial perspective. So I'm optimistic that we'll be able to work through that, those issues. On our ERP project, we had a check-in call with Tyler Tech project management yesterday, and overall, there's a lot of tasks, a lot of activities, but I'll just report that we're on track and we're meeting all of our obligations and deadlines to accomplish or provide what the work that we need to make sure that we're moving that implementation forward. We have had a couple of shakeups on the vendors project management side. Our original project manager for Tyler Technologies, she's taking another role, and so there's been some shifting. And then we've had a couple of consultants. Those are the ones that do the day-to-day configuration and training with the project team. We've had a couple of challenges with them, and we did have to ask recently for whether they'd be replaced on the project. But the vendor was very responsive and understood, our needs and the criticality of not losing time on this project and keeping it on track. And they were able to adjust and accommodate. So that was good news. Our budget process is underway. The submission deadline for departments to get their operating materials and service budgets submitted was on Sunday. I haven't had a chance to go through those in full yet, but there's a lot of them that turned green on Sunday, so that was good. That means people got them in on time. Also, over the last 2 weeks, I've spent a significant amount of time working with individual departments to be a little more proactive about the development and answering questions and providing assistance with reviewing the budget as we're developing it. Just knowing that we have some time constraints with other projects. We'd rather know about that now and get it addressed before we get closer to the end of the process. We have a kind of a draft capital project plan, so that includes the capital requests from departments as well as the initial inclusion of the CIP projects that were that we discussed at the work session with the Board of Commissioners. I've got that kind of rolled together, and then Matt and I started going through that yesterday to talk about timing and funding. No real outcomes on it yet, but we're making progress. That's on track.
Could I ask, interrupt on that for a second? You know, we talked about various ways that you were gonna handle the CIP funds, you know. And, you know, with the new energy projects coming online and stuff, what did we finally decide on that? Is it gonna be just straight, or what did you decide, I guess? The best way to handle special budgetary funds and stuff like that, or how do we do that? How are you planning on doing it?
Yeah, so as you know, I default to a very conservative approach. So if we don't have an agreement and a timeline in place, I'm not gonna include what I would consider to be speculative revenues in a budget, because if appropriations get made based on those revenues, that could put us in a precarious position where we're overexpending. So if we don't have at least a high degree of certainty that a source of revenue or funding stream is going to be coming in, it's not going to get included. I have not yet received the estimates for the SIP stuff. I usually, and the assessor's not behind on getting those to me by any stretch. He's it's usually a couple more weeks before he'll get those to me, and that's perfectly fine. So until I have that, I won't have a completely clear picture on what we can reasonably fund or not fund. I can say I did a full reconciliation of our CIP fund over the weekend. We have currently about $3.8 million of funding that's not allocated to any particular project at this point. Most of the projects that we've allocated funds to in that are likely to remain based on the prioritization that was discussed at the work session. So we have some flexibility there to take on additional projects, and then once I get those estimates from the assessor, we'll have a clearer picture.
Chair, Mike Corman raised his hand.
Hey, Mike, go ahead.
Let me unmute.
Thank you. Good morning. And yes, I'm working on those estimates right now. So usually try to get them by the end of February, 1st of March. And that is, I'm on track to get that done.
Great. One more quick question on budgeting for CIP, I guess. When we get prioritized for the year, it's 5-year plan. And of course, you know, going in when you get your estimate revenues and stuff, and you see that there may be a shortfall, or just be great if you had a huge surplus one year. What's the process that we would use to shift those projects from year to year? Or is that's what we're planning on doing, right?
So I think there's a difference between right now and this year versus how I would suggest handling that in future years. And that's just because, you know, this is year one, little bit of a compressed time frame. So my priority right now isn't necessarily figuring out financing and funding for an entire 5-year plan. My priority first and foremost is fiscal 27.
Okay.
And that's not to say that, you know, I'm ignoring it, but it's being considered, but we've got to move forward on this budget right now. As you know, so once we get past that hurdle, we'll certainly spend, you know, additional time working on, okay, so what's the financial plan for the rest of this 5-year plan, and then you know, what's the process, and essentially if there's a funding constraint, I would imagine that the process would be to you know, convene a request a work session with the Board of Commissioners and have a dialogue and discussion about it, because there's a number of options. We talked about most of them, and at that point we would need some policy guidance and direction from the board.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering what the process was gonna be to make those adjustments year to year or whatever, you know. So anyway, okay, thank you.
And I guess that is all I've got for my department.
So it's kind of a heads up or a question. So yesterday, the broadband consortium met. And the intent is to close it down by the end of this fiscal year. So now where this will come into play is we won't need to budget the $50,000 or $52,000 that we've been doing for the broadband consortium. But where we will probably need, and maybe it'll involve you some, is that we do. Broadband consortium has Nick Green contracted and Anna Bass doing the accounting. Nick says that we will have to do a financial audit. It's not a full audit, but a financial statement review or something for state requirements. And last year that was like $7,500. And, you know, the original his off the cuff estimate was, you know, maybe time for him and Anna's gonna be like maybe $2,500, roughly 10 grand is what somebody's gonna have to pick up. So, you know, I guess there'll be a question that the three of us will have to answer. Are we willing to take that responsibility on and then bill half of it to the port? But it's kind of, you know, like I said, more it's a heads up. And, you know, Nick and Anna should be able to handle the financial review part of it, but maybe if not, you know, it's not a full-blown audit, so maybe we'd ask you to, you know, review it. They have a firm hired that does the review already, so.
Do they fall into the under $750,000 of expenditures?
Yes.
And so it's generate financial statements and complete the agreed upon procedures.
I think so.
Yeah.
You probably need more information.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's more a heads up.
You said that there's an outside accounting firm currently.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. Anna Bass, I think she's based out of John Day, is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, she has a firm down there.
Yeah.
that
So when
Basically,
Nick
it's
is
doing the
using-
QuickBooks accounting of the
Yeah,
expenses and the income that's coming.
Okay, is it a CPA firm or just a bookkeeping firm?
I believe it's a CPA firm.
So my default would be to suggest, because they, you know, the agreed upon procedures are pretty minimal compared to a full financial audit. They could probably provide support through that. You know, to say anything beyond that, I need to have probably, like I said, more information.
Yeah. And I think the intent was is that Nick and Anna were going to shepherd the whole thing through. But if not, you know. I think that the consortium, you know, we haven't been able to be successful. The rules have changed for the broadband grants and stuff. So we've done what we can. And at this point, it's dispersing out the money that we got from Amazon for broadband. So and then fold it up. You know, as I said to the group, you know, the county and the port have other things that they spend 50 grand a year on. So that's why we're folding it up.
I got one question for you, the broadband too, and I asked Nick this question too. With it disbanding, do you see any exposure for the principals on down the road, compliance, clawback, anything like that?
I think that they only go part of one grant. You know, there wasn't a whole lot that was used for spent with Lightspeed Networks to do engineering studies and stuff.
Yeah.
And that grant, it was awarded directly to the broadband consortium.
Yes.
So I can't answer that without reorienting myself with the
More detail.
ORS 190 IGA.
Yeah, and I don't.
Specific agreements. If there's any, you know, contractual obligations that name the sponsoring entities, those could, you know, flow back up. I guess I would just recommend, you know, if those could all be, you know, finalized and closed out before it's dissolved.
Oh, I think that the work has been done and the contractor's been paid. So
yeah, that would be my primary
Yeah, okay, I wasn't trying to second guess Nick, because he was pretty confident, same thing. I just wanted to make sure if there was something the county needed to do prior to disillusionment, that we should think about it, but no, okay.
Yeah, I think, I don't, it's been a couple of years. I don't remember the details of that IGA, so I think it would, if there's any specifics in that on dissolution of it and what the port, or that was just the port in the county, or
Yeah.
there was, yeah, and what, their respective obligations are and rights are. I would just recommend kind of reviewing those again. I can certainly take a look.
So yesterday, Nick did send out, I believe it was supposed to be language for the dissolution, something that each entity is gonna have to pass. Admittedly, I haven't read the email yet because it sent out yesterday afternoon, but I can forward that to you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Thank you.
And so if I'm understanding correctly, that would probably be something I could reasonably exclude from the 52, except for
Probably
a little bit
around,
to cover maybe some of those.
and we're hoping to have another broadband meeting middle of March. And Nick was going to have a better estimate of what our fold up costs are going to be.
Okay, so yeah, if
So
you could
we
pass
should
that
have a
along to
harder
me,
number
that'd be
by the middle of March.
perfect. That'd be great.
Yeah, you can at least exclude probably around $40,000. We don't have to.
Looking under all the rocks and under all the couch cushions for all the pennies. So,
It all matters in the end.
yes, it does. Any other questions?
Any questions more?
No,
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad you're here.
Great to be here.
Yes. Okay, thank both of you.
You.
All right. The last report, the county administrator report, Matt.
Yes. Board, appreciate the opportunity to give you a report. Have provided a written one. I'd just like to highlight a few of the items, and then if you have any questions on that. Courthouse project, we do have the groundbreaking ceremony next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Our CMGC has put their project trailers on site. They put up the temporary fencing, and one of their project managers, Anissa, and I walked around and went door knocking to some neighbors, only got about half of them, but just gave them information with direct numbers for the GC and that. So if there's any issues, we connect. Few access items just on the one's trailer or so that we're going to work with them to get turned so they have access throughout the project and that. But really excited getting on there. Met with Tim Collins yesterday as he was helping along in that. So we're excited about that going through. Also,
Before you move on from that, I picked my grandson up from school, and that's where they do the pickup, right there, the 320 every day. And that's the trailer came through.
yeah,
So, and it's huge, and I just wondered if it might be something we want to make sure they're aware of. I don't know how much equipment is going to be moving through there, but there's kids running all over the place, and they're getting picked up and stuff, so.
yeah, that's one thing that that Tony brought up, just coordinating with the school a little bit closer on that. I'll be reaching out to them just to see what we can do, and also with our contractors saying, let's keep that road open. Not too much. Hardly anything will be stockpiled down in that turnaround area by where they go, but transportation, we had that trailer going right through during that time.
Yeah, and it's not very long that the parents show up. I mean, like you show up 5 after 3, and then they let them out at 5. 5 after 3, and they let them out at 3:20, and then pretty much everybody's cleared out by 3:30. So it's not a long period of time. I just was wondering if it might be something to keep an eye on, because like I said, there's all a bunch of crazy kids running around finding their parent, getting their parent.
Yeah. And so we're going to be looking at that and reaching out and just make sure they became very aware of that yesterday as they brought those in. So we'll coordinate that a little bit tighter. So also
On that, I won't be there. I'll be at the CDA meeting.
okay, you brought that up previously. Regret not having you there, but appreciate you letting us know. We will have we've gotten
a cardboard cutout of you.
Master funding agreement, everything's in slate. We should have that back end of March or so, and then we can start getting refund for the court's side of costs. Kevin's excited about that. And so we're working on getting that finalized and taken care of. Grant projects, just to let you know, the BART building generator, we didn't have any responses. OEMs is providing an extension on that because several other counties and municipalities are in similar issues. We have identified an alternative. And so with the extension that we've already submitted for, we should be able to still have that project go through and get paid with for grants. Fairground grants with the prevailing wage, those projects came in more expensive than our spreadsheet showed. We are proceeding with several of those. 3 projects that we will not be proceeding with are the vendor electrical and gray water improvements and the sheep barn siding project and the venting that's in there. That just we pretty much maxed out the grant with the other 3 projects that are underway and the 2 that were previously completed.
So we are spending all the grant money.
I think we're down to about $6,000. So
That's good.
yeah.
We always hate to have to turn back money.
Yeah, and I've actually kind of said, what can we slide in if we can? And I do have a meeting with the grants just to make sure we're all on track. Where Vince and I are meeting with them tomorrow, and so we'll be able to. We got a question the sign on the indoor arena. A couple of letters blew off. It would be about that amount. And so we're going to just ask if we can do that. But pretty much we're spending every dime that we can. Capital improvement plan, working on that with Kevin, modifying that a little bit and proceeding on. Also have just been following legislative engagement. There's, of course, there's discussion on a couple of hot topics, TLT funding. While we don't have them, the state has those funds, and we are looking to consider transient lodging tax as a possible new revenue source. They're looking at different ways how that's split. Currently it's 70% towards tourism-based activities, 30% to general fund discretion. A lot of municipalities are looking to change that up and get that percentage to tourism lowered so they can have more for general fund. Where we don't have it, doesn't have an impact, but would impact our consideration of it if we were to implement that. We are going to have a fully fleshed out discussion workshop on that, probably in the first April meeting, just to let the BOC know where everything shifts out with the current legislation and to see if that is something that would be considered here in Morrow County.
Effect, we have Boardman and Petner both have TLT taxes, I'm pretty sure.
I know Boardman does.
I think Petner does too.
And then the state one is already in place
So,
everywhere. They're
yeah.
looking to increase the state one. It's a 1.5%. They're looking to improve it to, by an additional 1.25% on top of that. And part of that money will go to wildlife preservation and including the wolf deprivation funds. So a couple of pieces of legislation that piqued our interest as we look on that. So just trying to follow those along with EOCA and AOC as well. So
it's funny that they're gonna take lodging tax for wolf depredation.
They've got to find
we're linked.
Well, they have to find money, so that's the answer.
make it an exclusive viewing purpose. Yeah.
I don't think the state really recognized what they were signing up for when they signed up for wolf deprivation funds. They thought it wasn't going to be as expensive.
Yeah. So that's just a quick summary of the items that we have. Excited about the ERP project. Kevin's been working very hard on that. He's received positive feedback from several of the elected officials that are still excited about that. And we're moving along on the process and appreciate the efforts that Kevin and others are putting in on that. So any questions?
Yeah, I guess question on CWC. What do you think about if Jared would come by and just meet with us?
Love to have that. In fact, I had reached out to him about the contract today. I'll have him slated for the next meeting to do some stuff.
And just maybe give a little bit about, tell us who he is and his background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, can definitely do that.
Okay. Any questions? More questions about? All right. On to number 5, our consent agenda. Any of them you guys wanna pull out?
I'd like to pull out C and D for discussion. So I'd moved for approval A and B on the consent agenda.
Second.
Move in second, any further discussion, all in favor?
I,
Aye, all opposed, motion carried. Okay.
so
on
item
to
C
Okay,
is, my question, I guess, since Stephen is here.
I'm here.
Yep, so, who was it, Q-Track was the person,
Q-Straint.
Q-Straint.
They're the
So we have their products installed in our buses.
They're the sole proprietor of all wheelchair securements in the country.
Okay.
That's probably a good business.
Yeah, so I was able to attend this training once and it's tremendous.
Okay.
Very little cost.
So then my next question is I'm not opposed to the idea, but is this in violation of any county policy? I know that, I'm not sure what our county policy says, but lots of times policies are that you can't accept things from vendors. And this would be something that would be given from the vendor, since they're paying, it's not just the registration, but the hotel and the meals and stuff. Is that in violation of?
Kevin, you
I have some questions if I,
Yes.
do we currently use their product?
Yes, it's in all our vehicles.
And do we have like an ongoing agreement with them for service or maintenance, or is there any upcoming procurement decisions?
No ongoing, we're always looking to hopefully procure vehicles.
I'd say that one more time.
We are always looking, right, to procure updated vehicles, yes. But we don't have a current money from our 5310 for a van. So our vans would have Q-Straints in them, and then we're hoping to get a larger vehicle in the near future, which would also, more likely than not, since they're the only ones have the securements in there.
So like I say, I'm not opposed to it. It's just I want to make sure that we aren't authorizing something that would put the employee in violation of a policy.
Yeah, so we do have a policy against gifts. And that would include gifts from vendors. I don't have it right in front of me. This
So
may be a bit of a gray area where it's a training related to products from a vendor that we're currently using.
So is this a question for Blackmore? I'm just looking through the policy right now. Is for training that general out-of-state travel shall be approved upon following circumstances. Is for training that is directly related to an employee's essential job functions, and no comparable training is available in state or is not provided in state in a timely manner. Not seeing a.
I think the question is whether is it appropriate to accept the vendor compensate or covering the costs that they are, right?
Exactly.
A conservative approach to take would be if the board's in favor and supportive of the training. And this again would be a conservative approach, but I think it relieves us of this request that we cover the lodging portion. I think it's relatively common that meals are provided by vendors at conferences and events and stuff like that, but the lodging portion is kind of the questionable part, and we're already covering the airfare. So I mean, that would be the safest position. May not be necessary, but it'd be the safest position.
Well, I'd kind of agree with that, especially based on Stephen's comments that this is a good training, valuable. You learn a lot from it, and I think it would be equivalent to someone else going to a conference and learning something.
Yeah, I mean, so as a piece of information, right, all public transit is different than Oregon. It's usually funded through a public transit benefit area, which is a local tax. So everything is publicly funded as well. And people from all over the country, including in my previous employment,
have gone to this training, and I've had policies at other agencies that we're not allowed to accept gifts over $25 from vendors as well. So I don't know if they asked this question as specific as that, right, to the legal counsels that I've had in previous, but I don't know if it's necessarily a gift as much as a training opportunity from the vendor. Right, much like our vendor trainings, public transit are all put on by vendors, right? We can have those trainings because they're paying for vendor booths.
I mean, I don't personally see it as a gift. But if the board would be more comfortable paying for it ourselves, then
Well, in the end, it's
We can
not
do that.
how we personally feel, it's how it
Sure.
aligns with policy, you know.
I think the important thing from my
Yeah.
perspective is, right, he has the opportunity to go.
Yeah.
Because it brings back a tremendous amount of knowledge, not just for us, but something we can share regionally, right? As a small region, all of these agencies are tiny amongst us. The material he brings back, we can share with our peers to make sure that everybody's being as safe as they can. And it takes a huge liability off of it. One of the things you learn in this training is if you follow what Q Strength tells you to how to secure the wheelchairs, if you're in an accident, they'll automatically come to court and testify for you. However, if you don't use it how they say to, they're automatically supporting the complainant, right? So it's important that we have a strong understanding from a liability standpoint of how important it is to make sure that we're following the standards of securing a wheelchair.
Yeah, Kevin, oh, I'm sorry, Matt.
Kevin, go ahead.
So I've got the gift policy in front of us, and so accepting something of more than an insignificant value as a personal gift, I would argue that this is not a personal gift. This is about a specific business benefit. So, and we're not performing any official action in favor of it because there's no open or current procurements with them. So Matt, if you had a chance to look at it, but I think we're in line.
Yeah, I was looking at that, but also I jumped to ORS 244.040, section 2, which is what's referenced in our policy. The exemptions where the prohibition of receiving gifts does not apply is partially reimbursement of expenses incurred in the course of official duties, which I would say Patrick's doing in this case.
Okay.
All right.
I move to approve out-of-state travel for Patrick Keeley to participate in the National Wheelchair Securement Training Academy.
Second.
Moving second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
for that
you.
up.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up and get it nailed down. Appreciate that.
More research. Treasurer's request. It looks like training for investments, but it seems like a lot of the things that they're talking about this conference are things that government portfolio advisors is doing for us, you know. Don't know that our treasurer is making some of these decisions at the breakout sessions they're talking about. I thought that.
But I think it would
BPA
be-
was doing was
I think it would be good for our treasurer to understand, you know, what our consultant is doing and to have a better, just to make sure that what our consultant is doing matches up with what our treasurer thinks we ought to be doing. I think that's good to be trained in that. That's my thought.
Put that, any questions? I don't know, Jaylene or anybody else, are you gonna put that in the form of a motion, either one of you? What your thoughts are? I guess if we're not gonna approve it, we don't do anything.
If I may,
Yeah,
this is a conference that I've been keeping an eye on since becoming treasurer. I've never requested it before, but I do feel like it's time, and as was stated earlier, I would like to learn more about what exactly they're doing. I don't think it's good to just always assume, even though I have utmost faith in Deanne and GPA, but we shouldn't always make assumptions. We should have the knowledge and background to know that we're making the correct decisions. I did actually put this in my budget this last year, so on the in case I went ahead and moved forward with going to this conference. And so I do appreciate your thoughts.
Well, I move to approve treasurer request to attend out-of-state conference as presented.
I'll second. We move to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, all opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. All right. This takes care of we'll move on to our business items. Okay, contract and insurance requirements, policy and consideration of exception. Kevin.
Good morning again.
Good morning again.
So this item, the reason this one's in front of you today in this specific area, we don't currently have a formal adopted process or policy that establishes minimum insurance requirements for contractors and other non-county employees that provide services on behalf of the county. The circumstance that creates, in absence of a policy or framework, the county's risk posture ends up being set through individual agreements by default, and that can lead to some inconsistencies in determination of risk or liability, potential liability the county is wanting to accept. So this is brought up specifically relative to the Parkos contracts, but it's not, the primary decision. I think there's two decision points. And it's not specifically whether or not, liability insurance should be, required for that specific contractor. More, it's related to establishing or a recommendation to establish a framework so that, management staff, we can, know where those guardrails are at and assure that we're operating within the, risk appetite of the Board of Commissioners. So the policy, I drafted a policy for consideration. And what that does, it establishes the minimum insurance standards for contractors and non-county service providers. That would create the consistency and predictability in how risk is transferred and managed. Second, preserves board authority over risk tolerance, and by making it clear that exceptions are determined and considered by the Board of Commissioners. And so I identified this as a potential material control weakness. And I say potential, anytime we talk about insurance and risk management, it's always potential, what could happen. Best case scenario, there could be a small third-party liability claim that is relatively insignificant, but those liabilities are also potentially uncapped, depending on severity of whatever that loss event is. So that's why. Sorry, you're choking on something. I'm not sure what's going on there. So that's bizarre. Because the amount of potential liability for a loss incident is, potentially minimal to potentially very large. I think it's important that we have a solid, framework and direction from the board on what that risk appetite is and where you want to have those decisions to lie, whether that's with staff and management, or thank you, or whether that's based on individual decisions and acceptance of risk by the board. One second.
Budget season, Eric was like, okay, I'm gonna
What's that?
help out.
The risk right here is I'm gonna choke on whatever was stuck in my throat. So this also would align counties' contracting practices with recognized internal control and risk management frameworks, and align with the guidance that's provided by CRS, our risk pool. So current scenario, if we have a loss event, and again, I'm talking about just in general, any contractor arrangement, if that contractor's not covered, certainly our general liability policy would cover us within the limits of the policy. But insurance doesn't eliminate risk; it socializes risk, and that would be increased costs due in premiums. It would affect our risk factor rating. So just defaulting to assume that there's no material impact because our general liability policy would cover that, isn't what I would consider a best practice approach. It's certainly an industry standard for companies, for counties, cities to require as a general policy their service providers and non-employees that provide services to carry either general liability, automotive, or professional liability policies.
Well, I'm ready to make the motion, but I do have a question. The resolution is titled R 2026-X. Don't we normally have a number there?
Yeah, I didn't have a resolution number when I drafted this, so and I completely slipped my mind on that.
Before you make your motion, I would like to make just a comment on, it's kind of a philosophical, I guess, or how we want to do things. I'm in favor of it, but I think in a situation like, and not specifically to the host, but I think it's right not to have staff have to make these kind of calls and bring it to the board if that's the way you're going to do it. But I also don't want to, I think I talked to Kevin a little bit about this. I don't want to make policies, and this might apply in the future when we're thinking about this, make them so stiff or hidebound that they're not able to do a little workaround and stuff and still say, and still keep the county whole. So that was my thought on it. And I think this one does that. In this specific case, there was a one time, which we'll talk about next, I guess. But anyway, so we got this one on the table here. Ready for your motion? Any other questions of Kevin?
Matt, yes. I am in support in nature and goals for this. I am concerned about the entire scope and requiring any consideration being brought to the Board of Commissioners. Right now, the proposed policy would cover any individuals, contractors, subcontractors, professional service providers, vendors and service providers, program partners, permittees and licensees performing activities on county property. You're going to impact the fair. We pay the supervisors for the fair on a contract basis for 3 or 4 days of work. They're not going to get CGL. Our camp hosts, which is one of the trigger points on this, we were able to make arrangements for our full-time camp hosts, but we lost our part-timer ones, the ones who back up the full-time hosts, because for $700-800 a year, when they're only getting called up for, a couple days a month, it doesn't pencil out. We have music performers at the fairgrounds. A lot of them are local. They don't have CGL coverage. And so this policy right now would impact that, and every one of those become a open public political decision by the Board of Commissioners.
I don't have a problem with that, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Because I go back to what I think. I just don't think it's their responsibility to open the county up to that kind of liability. And, to say that the county would not approve fair stuff or, I don't see that as political. But anyway, that's my thought. I think you know, it's not a done deal that they don't get it.
It isn't.
You
It just
bring it
adds
to
a
the
time
board.
component
Yeah.
in which we have to bring to the board.
Yeah.
When we're negotiating with small musicians who want to get their schedule and say, I need to know tomorrow, and the board doesn't meet for 2 weeks.
Weigh
You know.
that off against the, you know, who decides on the potential liability, I guess. That's what you're weighing.
In many municipalities, that's an administrative decision within guidelines set by the VOC.
I think for now, we can adopt this policy, and then when we get to the point where we need to make exceptions, then we can cross that bridge when we get there.
All right, excellent.
Hold a special session.
Mm.
You know,
So you're thinking like, adopt this now and maybe have Matt come up with to address some of the concerns that he brought up and stuff. If the contract was under a certain amount or something, then he
Yes.
gets discretion.
I think that would be a good way to do that.
Okay.
Yep. So on,
Well, we can discuss
if the
that part later.
contract's under a certain amount, that doesn't make any difference on the liability exposure for the county,
But also, you know,
which is the
But
reason that we're.
that's
this is
just a real
kind of-
one potential parameter, Dave, and maybe that's not the best parameter, but they can identify parameters or instances that maybe is appropriate for the
I
administrator.
like that. That's good. I like that.
That-
Yeah.
I threw out a hypothetical parameter that
I know,
maybe not
I
the
know.
best one.
Okay, okay.
Kevin has one comment. And this is just a hypothetical, you know, consideration rather than individual contracts on a case by case basis, perhaps. If there's a class of contracts, so fair entertainment, work posts. And, you know, the board made an action, be a resolution, then you could exempt that particular class if you determine there wasn't.
I think that's what, at least I'm thinking, and then Gus is nodding his head, that's, you guys can figure that out. And bring it to us.
And I appreciate that consideration because a one size fits all doesn't fit all.
No.
And so we need to be careful on that. We have a independent contractor boilerplate policy, which is great for about 80% of the stuff we do. And for 20%, it just doesn't work. And so that's why we have to get a little creative on those things. And they're not major contracts, but you know, there needs to be some consideration for them.
Yeah, and that was the point of my comment, that I want to leave you guys wiggle room to be creative. Just, you know. Yeah, anyway.
so Valerie, what number should I say, or should I say -X?
-04.
I should say -04.
Apologies for
That's,
omitting
no,
that number.
I mean, I thought, okay, we've never used it before. I don't see why not.
Roman numeral 10?
I didn't think we'd gotten to 10 this year. Those are the other
20
ones.
actually, wasn't it? XX.
Well, it's just one X.
All right.
Oh,
Okay. I move to adopt R-2026-04, adoption of policy RSK.002 for Morrow County contractor insurance requirements.
Second.
Moved in second, any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Okay, part 2. Specifics.
so I guess the only thing I would add on exemptions or exceptions or waivers. I mean, obviously, the intent of the policy is to displace that decision and that process to the Board of Commissioners. I did include a recommendation there. And I will fully, admit and disclose that just because of the nature of my role and my position, I will always default to probably the most conservative position, because I view that as my role, and that's what my recommendation should be based on. That's just a consideration of one of the many considerations for the board to consider.
I got a question for Matt. Why didn't our workaround of increasing compensation to cover that work? What happened? It did one word, didn't it?
Worked. We've, and this is where, all of our contracts have required the insurance, items for several years, for the camp hosts for several years. It just hasn't been enforced. And so last year we enforced it, and we came through and said, okay, because this is something new, we'll adjust it. There was a lot of heartache and heartburn. The permanent hosts were able to absorb it in the increased rate of the $5 per day. That allowed them to, they didn't have to front the insurance coverage. They were able to pay over time, so it didn't impact them so much. The biggest thing is we lost 3 part-time camp hosts because they don't have a regular stream of revenue. So the extra $5 was just here and there. So it didn't match up to pencil out for the additional coverage. So these are people that are there and, hey, we want to take a weekend vacation. Can you come cover for us? They're like, no, I don't have insurance. Interesting enough, we reached out to CIS. In other states, there's ways to have them listed as additional insured on the county's coverage, so they're covered. That's something that CIS was chagrined to do, didn't want to go about that process. And I'm okay with that. We have the requirement, and so that's where it is. So we lost our backups, which made it a little bit challenging to do it. So for the people there throughout the whole summer, it worked. For the additional backup, it didn't. And so we were working at a kind of a deficit on staffing.
How much money were you talking about that the backups lost?
Well, they just didn't do it.
Or would have lost, I mean.
The policy is, I think it was about $800 for the
And the amount of money they would have.
It doesn't make any sense to do. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
no,
if they're making
how much money
$45 and only covering 4 or 5 days a month.
I know, I mean, a bottom line figure, is it, that would they, if they'd have done it, would they lost $300, $400? What?
I don't know exact, I mean, if I looked at it and said they covered, let's say 5 days a month, and that was $250 a month for 6 months. So they're at $1,800, they're losing $800. So more than half of their compensation.
Yeah, I just
That's
wondered
just rough.
what we were talking about
Yeah.
there.
So that's the challenge that we have on this. And, you know, for the full timers, it works. For the part timers, it didn't. For the one-off performance, it won't work. And so we need to come up with some list of acceptable exceptions.
Yeah, do you think it would have made a difference if we had said, we'll just reimburse you for the cost of the policy at 100% one time?
Well, then that, you know, increases the expenditures by the county by $2,400 when, you know, how much of a risk assessment is there for a part-time employee? You know.
Yeah, that's certainly part of the consideration.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it would.
So, you know, sure, if we want to spend more money, I don't, out of the parks and the fair, as we talked, those are tight. So it just, the areas this will hit will be the ones that are most constrained on budget. Parks, fair, some.
What did insurance, what did, you said they didn't look favorably on it. What is their reaction? I mean, what did they say they were gonna do if we do this?
Well, so we had pushback from the insurance at first. With the CIS asking for additional insured, which is a common practice. I'll let you know. I've used it New York, Utah, many places. They just weren't willing to do it.
At all?
That's their policy decision. We're part of their policy. I'm not going to argue with them further than that. The other item was when they first looked for the individual coverage from Wheat Ridge and other sources, it came out prohibitively expensive. I think that was because of Wheat Ridge's lack of experience in dealing with something like this. They were, with our help, able to get something that was affordable, but $800 for a season.
So you're talking about we were actually gonna get a policy, or we're gonna be county insured?
No, we just, because we didn't want to lose our camp hosts, we reached out to Wheat Ridge and said, what can you do for these individuals? So we helped facilitate it.
You're talking about the camp hosts or replacements?
Camp hosts. This was just for the camp hosts.
Yeah.
Well, it could have went for the replacements as well, but we were having the camp hosts pay it.
Okay.
But we were trying to find a venue that would make it affordable for them. Don't we have any ideas what other counties are doing for this? Different ways. The policy that we have in Camp Host is based off of Hood Rivers. Camp Host, Camp Licensee agreement. They waive the CGL requirement, just require them to have automotive insurance because they have and property insurance on the RVs and that. Others work under just a volunteer basis. You just come up and you stay there and you get to use the space in the campground and you don't really get paid. A lot of those are campgrounds that are a little bit closer to civilization than ours. You know, and there's others that just make them employees. I would be remiss to ever accept making them employees. It's just I would pay the CGL before I'd make them employees.
I agree with that. I agree with that one.
It's just that, in other ways, they just waive the requirement. They just say, you know, this is this small administratively. We realize what it is. We waive your items, and this extends to you know, events that the county doesn't do, but you have a contract for vendors to come at a fall festival. They sign a contract. Under this, they would require CGL. That's mom and pop craft stores suddenly happen to have CGL insurance coverage. And that, we don't run those events, but if we were to, we would, under the current policy, we'd either have to come up with an exception, bring it to y'all, either a boilerplate umbrella exception or individual exceptions to y'all before the event.
We're not getting into any beer gardens or anything like that.
I don't partake. We'll let you make that decision. So
I can imagine with the liability on that deal.
So, and coming back to this, the policy, you know, coming from risk and procurement in the past, just having that saying it's $1 million is a good policy. And so to say that just makes it so this is our threshold. It's just, that's very easy for contractors, you know, consultants and that. It's not easy for a lot of the people that we work with in the county on specific things with parks and fair.
Okay, goes back to this original question. What's the board's pleasure?
So could we move to apply it to park hosts with reimbursement of insurance and administrative assistance and take it out of the general fund so that we're not impacting the park budget so much? Can we do that?
So right now, we already pay the extra $5 a day, which compensates them for the additional insurance. That works for the full timers. For the part timers, either an exception to the part timers, or a full subsidy for all of them.
I guess so when we put that in place last year, you know, it was just the goal to make sure that they were financially whole. Listening to the discussion, I guess I wonder if it's going to be a requirement, if it should just be a standard practice to just reimburse them for that cost. I don't know if the part-timers should be handled differently because there's a different level of service or value, I guess, that's received, but at least for the full-timers, because you know, the intention is not to, it's not a big revenue stream for them, right? And you know, that initial cost up front, could certainly be burdensome. It's not the intention to put a burden on contractors, right? It's just to cover the risk, keep them whole with regards to the park hosts.
Well, my opinion is that is a big asset for the county. And I don't want to see us start messing with customer service over small potatoes.
It caused a lot of heartburn with the camp hosts that were there.
Yeah, and they're really important to that. You know, if you listen to the people that stay there, the hosts, you have good hosts, it's important.
So I like Gus's idea is that we just pay the insurance, you know, we go out, help find it for them, and we pay it. And if we can get it out of the general fund so we don't impact, because really it's covering it's for the benefit of the county. We're CYA for the county.
Okay. I move that we apply this to Park Coast contracts with reimbursement of insurance costs and administrative assistance of fill state coverage to primarily come out of the general fund if possible.
Second.
We moved in second. Is that an appropriate motion to do? You need to do what you need to do, Kevin and Matt.
I think the
Gonna get to
motion's
that? Okay.
fine. If you wanted to tighten it up, you could define.
No, I just wanted to make sure I just want to make sure you guys are comfortable.
I think the
with it. Yeah.
intention and purpose.
Okay. We move the second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is our airport advisory committee appointments. Eric and Rosemary.
Good morning, commissioners.
Go ahead, Rose.
So we have our airport advisory committee that has kind of like dissolved just because of time over the past few years. So we're looking at getting new members instated so we can have twice a year really regularly scheduled meetings. So we can have the community involved in a lot of the projects that are going on at the airport. Mainly we have our PAPI reconstruction project, and it's going into the construction phase. So this is a great opportunity to get everyone together and get the community in the know about what's kind of going on. So we presented a list of applicants. We're excited because we can fill them all and then some, and get our next meeting on the books is tentatively the 25th of February, so next week.
Did we have any applicants that we couldn't get in, or did we get everybody?
We got everybody that applied. Thankfully, we have 2 vacancies. So if you know anybody.
Vacancies for alternates.
Yep.
Alternates, okay. No, I'm very excited to see this and glad that we're getting there. So thank you for getting that set up.
You kind of kickstarted that, didn't you?
I
Good,
did, but
I'm
they
good.
did the work. I
Yeah.
kickstarted it and they did the work, so.
I like advisory. Okay.
Yeah.
I move to approve the appointments as presented for the Airport Advisory Committee.
Second.
We moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next up is our sanitary disposal stuff.
Thank you and see you soon.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for your guidance on that.
Yes, thank
Very
you.
helpful, very helpful.
Establishing rates for curbside recycling service. Eric,
Yes, thank you.
bring it around.
So you'll see in the packet, there's a proposal letter from sanitary disposal to establish new curbside recycling services within the urban growth boundary of Morrow County, which will comply with the requirements of Oregon Recycling Modernization Act and also statewide service standards. The proposal program will provide every other week residential and multifamily recycling collection service. Under the RMA, under the framework, the producers that are producing this packaging, they contribute funding through a producer responsibility organization. Those funds are administrated and distributed by Circular Action Alliance to help offset the cost of the implementation. The rate to the customer would be $8 a month for residential. The CAA, the Circular Action Alliance portion coverage would be $14.75 a month. And the for commercial would be $24 a month. They have a much bigger cart. Are there any questions?
So I just, for clarification, that this is really only gonna apply for the urban growth boundary around Boardman, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just, urban growth Boardman is the only place that has to have it.
Right now.
So I don't want to apply this to anywhere else. I don't actually even want to apply it to Boardman, but it's what it is.
Yes, there's minimum standards, has to do with population size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Boardman's the only one that crosses it
Yes,
currently.
currently,
Yeah.
I don't,
Even
not-
we're gonna think it will be a lot.
Yeah.
Population's 4,000.
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say 5, but I think it is 4.
And this is a required program.
It
No
is.
opt out, no opt in.
Yeah, no, the state.
Makes it
A requirement.
July 1 of this year.
Thank you for saying that, Matt. And yeah, I don't see South County falling into this category ever, but you know, requirements change, so, but this is where we're at today.
Well, given that it's a state requirement, I'll approve it, even if I don't really like it. Okay. I move to approve the establishing curbside recycling rates for sanitary disposal.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you,
Thank you.
commissioners.
Okay, this next item up is consideration of 126.7 intergovernmental agreement for financing community mental health with the state of Oregon.
Board, this is the long-awaited CAFA. It's been out there for a while. This gets us through June 30th, 2027 from January 1st, 2026. Any services that have been provided for community health, mental health services, retroactively January 1st can be billed on this. This is the agreement that we contract with Community Counseling Solutions, and is in the amount for $2,067,708.38. Generally, I would ask for the chair to sign on this, but it is set up in DocuSign with mine. That's how they have all the amendments to have it go through the managing person. One of the things that we need to do is with the signature of this grant, we will need to go through steps to give an intent to award to CCS. And then if anybody submits anything, then we would consider their applications as well. We'll get that going as soon as we have this contracted and ask for your approval for the agreement and for authorization to allow me to sign on behalf of the Board of Commissioners.
Any questions about?
No. Glad to see it finally through. I move to approve agreement 44300-000054298. An IGA with the state of Oregon through the Oregon Health Authority for financing community mental health services for the 2026-2027, and authorize the county administrator to sign on behalf of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Good to get that done, isn't it?
It is.
All
That
right,
was a long time to play chicken.
Yeah.
next up is our grant application, Oregon Department of Agriculture, wolf depredation, compensation and financial assistance. Valerie?
So this is just looking for approval on our grant application for the wolf depredation and financial assistance grant. The committee decided to ask for a lot this year. We based the confirmed depredation reimbursement amounts on the 5-time and 3-time multiplier, which applies to 5 times for calves and yearlings, and the 3-time multiplier for adult cows. And then with prevention and a small amount of administrative reimbursement, that brings the total we're applying for to $532,300.
Okay, any questions of Valerie on this?
So what happens if they say no to this amount? Do they just award you a lesser amount, or is it?
That's what we're anticipating.
Yeah, but if we consistently show need and apply for grants, we're a lot more likely to get them. Morrow County has done a lot better than some others because of our proactiveness on this.
Sure.
No, I would not expect us to get that amount.
Well, I just was hoping, you know, I'm not disputing that it's not an appropriate amount to ask for, is that if you ask for this and they say no, you get a goose egg, you know?
No, you still get.
Yeah.
Something.
It's recommended that we ask for, as much as we can, just so we can show the impact to the community.
Sure.
Have at it, city of them.
And given the state's surplus of money, I'm sure it will.
Yeah, fully funded.
Well,
Funny guy.
I think Chair Sykes should make the motion so he can authorize somebody else to sign the application. He doesn't get to do that, so.
Is my name on there?
No, someone
I'll
else.
move to approve the county wolf depredation compensation and financial assistance grant application and authorize Commissioner
Oh, God.
Gus Peterson to sign the
I didn't read
application.
that motion. I will second that
All right.
wholeheartedly. Move and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion carried. Okay, next up is consideration of creation of a community assistance grant program. Matt, okay.
Yes, this is a loose draft of a proposed policy. During the budget committee meetings last year, it was reported that the budget committee would like to see some way that the grants, that the monies that have been distributing to community organizations and that there be a more formalized process to do so. Kevin and I have been talking about this a little bit, and then we pulled this together, mainly I, and then we reviewed it with him. And we got it in. There was some few changes to add the tourism grants on there. This more or less gives us a basis to allow people to submit it to a specific area. Right now, they send emails to the commissioners, to Kevin. If, they show up and give a request during public comment, and this would allow us to publicize and say, this is how you do it. This is where it comes. This program is based off of a little bit of borrow and stills from Umatillas applications for their lottery funds that they distribute. They do so on a much smaller level, only like $1,000 to $5,000 on grants. However, the framework does work and allows it to, if we were to develop the scoring matrix and provide information, allow for additional points for people who've applied and fulfilled in previous years. If they're big capital projects, maybe space it out to allow others people to do it. And we'd like to have consideration to help develop that over the next couple weeks and bring that in so we can use it as part of this budget cycle. Wanted to allow you to take a look at that, read it, see if there's anything. A couple points on that we try to do is reduce the politicization of assistance requests during the budget process, separates the funds into different buckets and purposes that would be designated during the budget process. So we'd say, okay, we've got this much, we'll give out these grants, and then they can then they can submit, and we and the group can award them and rank them, and then finance and myself as the county administrator could finalize based on that scoring. Creates a grant review committee, and then we have post-award procedures where right now we've had times where we've said, yeah, go ahead and give it to them. They never give us an invoice. We can't send out a letter. So this gives a clear direction on how they should get their funds, and also allows them to give reporting requirements to the committee to make sure that things are getting taken care of and money's not just being distributed without knowledge. And so this is a change, and I know there is in the past this Ways and Means Committee that is kind of a specter for some people who are involved in that. What I'd like to say is if we structure this and provide direction and give it a solid basis, I think it can be managed. It can create a very transparent and efficient way to distribute money that's designated by the BOC and the Budget Committee in buckets that we can then distribute out with ratification by the BOC. So you would still have final thumbs up knowledge of where the money's going, it would just be vetted and set out for you in a process that hopefully, again, can be transparent and efficient and effective.
I think it's a very good loose draft. It's a good start.
So you have the 3 buckets proposed here, so during budget, we would identify X number of dollars to go to each bucket.
Okay.
You know, the intent at this point.
I think at a minimum, throughout the budget process and during budget, we identify what the total bucket that the smaller buckets fit into. I think that's kind of at a minimum. Certainly it tightens it up if it's designated by program.
Okay, so you have one big bucket that, and then the committee would determine how much each of these other 3 categories was going to get out of that.
Yeah, so the thought process, the way that and I can only speak for my time at the county, but the way that it kind of works, there's not a good formal review process for the requests. And certainly the budget committee, they want to make the most efficient use of their time and have these vetted and considered and approved prior or aside from the budget committee and budget review process. And it feels like, and commissioners certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like where this is very significant and important funding for a lot of the recipients, because it's one of the few programs where we've that nonprofits or municipalities can rely on operating funds versus just capital grant funds. But that being said, it sometimes feels like the amount is in total is more focused on what were the requests that received versus making sure that the county operational requirements and surpluses or deficiencies are considered and the decisions made where we can support this amount divided up. So I feel like it's a little bit more of the former than the latter. And what we've seen is we tend to see a little bit of creep in the size of the request. And because there's not an explicit limit on the amount of funding, not recommending reducing anything that any recipients, and Matt and I talked about even having in the objective scoring criteria, because if somebody's receiving operating grant funds, that would be disastrous if it was discontinued. Have one of the criteria be a preference for if you've received operating grant funds in the past and you're requesting operating funds for a future year, just to ensure some consistency and continuity, because it's not the intention at all to minimize or reduce. It's more the intention to formalize, increase transparency, and have a more objective process. Make sure that the county's requirements are in line and met, and then designating surplus or available funding for this.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
go for it.
We looked at this before, I don't know if you remember. And I'm gonna play the devil's advocate. I'm not against this. I think it's great because we do a lot of good things. But one of the things we talked about, if there's, and I've had this happen, people come up and go, well, so-and-so gets money. What do you gotta do to get money from the county? Who do you gotta know? So, well, right there. No. And I'll get you on the list. No, just kidding. But it was hazy, and I think we talked to you, Kevin, about that. How do you? So if we're gonna start publicizing it, you can expect to get more applications. Okay, and they're gonna be good applications, and they're gonna tug at all of our heartstrings, believe me. when the size of the pot is decided. When, like I said, and I talked about this earlier. If the pot is made bigger, I want to know where that money is coming. What are you defunding to increase this? Because you're gonna have people that have really good programs and they're gonna benefit, disadvantage or whatever people, so they're gonna look nice. So the pot's gonna be, chance it could be increased. I think we gotta think about how that pot's gonna get increased. Because everybody's gonna have their friend that needs it and they'll bring it in and all that good stuff. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Surprise, I have lots of thoughts. I think that it's established in, during the budget development process. So as the budget officer, my priority would be to, maintain existing amounts of funding for an overall community assistance grant program. Which means, we wouldn't, as you know, I don't just arbitrarily reduce budget amounts for any program or department that has the board support during the budget process. So it would be considered the same as any other departmental budget. Increases, I think that could be and should be dependent on surplus or unexpected funding. If we receive unplanned revenue throughout the year, frequently I'll bring those to the Board of Commissioners for direction on what to do. I think that's an opportunity to make a determination at that point to augment if you feel like we need to put more money in this particular program, just like any other department or program in the county.
We could potentially do something similar to what we've done with roads, and when we have opportunity, stockpile it a little bit while things are good, and then we're not dependent on every year having to be an increase to make sure we can meet that. And
See, I agree with that, rather than, okay, we've got a whole bunch of really good projects lined up here. Let's go get some money somewhere else, down in that proverbial basement where all our money is, and we need to drag out and everything.
Is that where we keep it?
Yeah, he's got it.
Me and Jaylene, we'll take a bag and we'll go out back to the money train.
Yeah, but that's kind of the way I want to look at things moving forward is if it's I like surplus, just like you just said, but if we start moving things, I want to know where it came from and say, okay, and weigh it off. Okay, we're going to defund this to fund this. That's all I want. As we any funding in the county. Okay.
And that is certainly something that I would call out to the board if this is not in any of our authority to defund anything. That's a budgetary and a governance decision. That's by statute. So
okay. Including the CIP fund.
I know you're very worried about the CIP fund, and again, once the board's adopted a budget, made appropriation.
Okay.
It's up to the board to change that.
Sometimes that's pretty easy to dip into.
We have yet to do it.
People seem to think of that as the slush fund, don't
Yeah,
they, Dave?
that's what I think if we're gonna have a capital improvement plan, we're gonna tell people this is what we want to do, then we need to not let it be a slush fund. We need to hold our guns and say, okay.
I think it'll be easier to do that with the plan and to point to that and say, this is what we're saying.
Absolutely. I do too. And like I said, and we get, okay, you want to fund this. Okay, then we're not going to build this building over here. Make it so everybody knows what's happening. Okay, I think my spiel's done.
One item on this, outside of the creation of it is just that committee that we have set up on it. In the write-up, it's set up by 3 appointees, by one each from the Board of Commissioners, and then 2 staff people to review those. This would not be an advisory committee to the BOC, it'd be an advisory committee to the county administrator and the finance director, just so we can not have to publicize meetings. We'll publicize the process, but then we can review and meet with the people one-on-one. More similar to the ASA meeting than what the CIP.
Does it specify in here how you're gonna notify and how people are gonna make application?
Oh, it just says the date time frame that we would. We need to flesh out the forms and that, but we would put it out in the paper and put it on the website.
Yeah,
So that, and hopefully, as we get this under, we could actually say, here's the amount that's available this year. That's what I'm used to with other kind of wrap tax for recreation, arts and parks kind of tax setups that are set that some other municipalities use, where you say, we got $2 million, bring your projects, here they are, and we publish and we keep track yearly and publicize that, saying these are the people who get it. It makes it transparent. It makes it so it's not just who knows the commissioner, you know, for coffee kind of thing. It really makes it so we're transparent. And
Who slips Dave a 20?
that's not what I saw earlier. Finds Kevin with the money tree.
yeah, no, I like that idea. I like the way you said that.
Okay, so do you, I mean, I think the draft is good. Sounds like that's the consensus of the board. Do you
So-
need anything?
So what we could do is, we can continue polishing it up over the next 2 weeks. We could have something for March. We'd like to get, your consideration, for appointments at the first March meeting, so we could publish this and get it going.
So you
So
want us to think about that ahead of
if
time?
you could start thinking about that, we don't need necessarily an action today, right now. But if you have thoughts, as Kevin and I continue to massage this, we can get this out in the next BOC's meeting packet and make sure you're good with the final draft.
Go over again one more time, how, we're each gonna appoint one,
Yes.
and then it's gonna be you and Kevin.
It'll likely be 2 staff members. And then they will review them all and score them, and then they'll bring them to Kevin and myself, who we will make the final determination. They will score them and rank them, and then we're gonna say, okay, we got pot money to give out these and these. So the committee's not gonna be divvying up the money, they're gonna score the projects and say, these are
Right.
really good.
Right, I would just kind of wonder if if it's just wide open, we can appoint anybody we want from anywhere in the county.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so, and I can kind of get an idea for you. Kevin and I can talk about who we'd like to do from the staff side of things.
do we advertise that we're gonna, no, we're not gonna advertise that we're looking for these people
No.
to serve on this board.
And it's,
We-
It's just gonna be
you
us.
each appoint one, so
We go out
you
and
go
can't
check.
pick our own, one person, each of us.
Yeah, but we're not gonna like publicize to apply.
If you want to do, if you want to have you have want people personally apply to you, go for it.
Well, I'm trying to do a workaround here from my old, gosh. Cut me off. Okay. So you guys have direction?
I believe we do. We're just asking for direction. If you like where we're at, we'll polish it up, get some, scoring things and metrics in there and bring that back to you in 2 weeks.
Yep, good,
Okay.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. That's it on our business items. Correspondence?
No correspondence.
Oh,
Sir, just before you jump into commission reports, there was there has been a request for an agenda item in regards to Pacific Core and that easement off of we discussed a couple meetings ago with the jog in the road. Matt Kinney and Justin Nelson have been working on that. Their intent was actually to get it on this agenda, but we didn't receive an agenda item on that. Pacific Core is asking for special consideration instead of waiting till March 4th to have the BOC consider that request. We're wondering if we could, consider a special meeting either Friday or Monday, short meeting, if you'd be interested in doing that.
this short Zoom meeting.
Yes.
I could do a short meeting on Friday.
Friday, this Friday?
Yeah.
It seems like there's nothing.
Let's check. Us analog guys. Gotta
come to some agreement with the underlying landowner to?
Matt, Kenny and Justin have been working on that, and so with Justin out of country and Phil Morrow, we've been involved in those discussions and they've worked something out. Have the documents for it, but I'm not ready to speak on it. I would have Justin and Matt Kenny to address it.
Well, I'm good for Friday.
Would 10 o'clock work?
Sure.
Okay. We'll get that set up then.
Okay, now on to.
Thank you.
Anything else, Matt?
That's all, sir.
On to commissioner reports, Jeff, got anything?
Well, last Friday was a CREA meeting. Nothing substantial there, other than they're talking about there's been a continuing ongoing litigation with the PUC relates to corporate projects, which are public utility, like small scale stuff, and the utilities have to purchase it at a voided cost. And the small scale developers complaint is that they don't think that the utilities such as PPNL and PGE are applying the correct avoided cost. But this is ongoing litigation that CREA has been spending $80,000 a year on for years and years. Nothing's ever happened. And my contention is how does this benefit Morrow County? Where's the return on investment for Morrow County? We contribute about $22,000 a year to it. Gillum County is the big one, about $100,000, and Sherman County is about $20,000. How is this benefiting the counties that are paying the bills? Seems to be benefiting developers and not the county. So we don't have any purple projects, and they're definitely not where the $20,000 is coming from. So I've been advocating for some time is that why we keep flushing money down the toilet here that doesn't benefit us. And so there was a lot of discussion about that.
So you succeeded.
Not completely yet, but keeping the pressure on. Next month, they're supposed to come back with a list of purple projects in the counties now. There is one purple project in Sherman County that it makes the top 10 taxpayers in their county. And that developer happens to be on the CREA board. So he's in favor of continuing this in Sherman County. But again, the $20,000 that Sherman County is paying in isn't coming from that guy's project, it's coming from a large scale project. We'll see.
Okay.
Then, as I alluded to earlier yesterday, was the broadband consortium meeting, and hopefully we have things wound up by the end of the year, or contributions to the broadband consortium, and money that we got from Amazon will be distributed out to Columbia Basin and BDD Fastnet out.
Evenly.
Yep.
And the CDA meeting will of course be wonderful and smooth and
Yeah, that time will tell.
Okay, I guess I'll report little Chris first. I'll be calling Chris 3 meeting here pretty soon. We have some funds to distribute. That's nice. Hopefully we'll have our area of influence for Jurgen, Matt, Stephen Wyrick's working on that now. And we'll get that. And I think that might be, that's all I have.
So on the CDA, when you brought it up, it reminded me that I have not read it yet, but there was an email sent out that says that the lawsuit has been settled and everything, we'd signed the agreement, but it sounds like the paperwork has all been signed off and everything's dismissed. I haven't read the email yet to see if it says that the Liz Pendens has been dropped on the property so that it can actually move forward and get transferred or not. At the last CBA meeting when we signed, everything was done there. Commissioner John Schaefer from Umatilla County said that afternoon he was going to contact his attorney to start the process of the Liz Pendens being. So, okay. The best hope is that it is, and each party can move forward with getting property transferred to them.
I got one more thing before turn it over to Gus. The county board meeting. We kind of talked about it. I want to make sure you guys are still on board with that, because I'll remind you with Valerie's help, go ahead and schedule the Zoom, and it'll be a face-to-face, but yeah.
I mean,
We're kind of the driving force on getting this together anyway, so you okay with it?
I mean, if the port is up for having a discussion, I'm up for having a discussion. Yes.
They said they were.
So, yeah.
That's what I heard. I mean, I wasn't at the meeting, but they said, in fact, it was their idea, but nobody had moved on it. And I said, because I think we need to get going on this, is to talk about this, how we're gonna live with it, live together moving forward. And we got these projects coming up, they're out there. And we got some ideas on what we want to do with the solar, different this and that. So I'll just make sure you guys are, and if you have any suggestions on how the things should be structured, or I'm thinking have it at the port. Is that right?
That's fine. So, as I've said before, we sent them an agreement. If they don't like it, why don't they send us back a red line and tell us what they don't like about it? Otherwise, why are we just going to need to? Because I think you'd said it, Gus, this is a bargaining start. So give us your counter offer.
Well, I didn't get anywhere. Believe me, we tried that and it didn't get anywhere.
I understand.
So
if we
it kind
sit
of,
down with the electeds, there's a possibility we might get farther.
Okay.
That's my
okay.
comment on that.
Well, and like I said, then I suggested, or one of us, I forget now after all the talking, is have just a representative from each group, a couple of them maybe, sit down and come up with something. That didn't get anywhere. They didn't want to do that. And they had, they told me, well, we had our meeting, we talked about this, and the Morrow board wants a full meeting with us. So it seems like it's kind of defaulted down to the lowest. No, I shouldn't say that. All these options we're talking about have been looked at, and we're now at a full board meeting. So.
Yeah, well, no, I'm in favor of trying.
Okay. I'll go ahead. Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay, that's all I got.
I've got one thing. I applied for the NACO Rural Energy Academy, and there were 12 spots, and I got in. And so I've got a couple of people in the county who are on the team, but I'm really excited about that, given the projects that are going on, and it'll be another 8 weeks of classes, but excited for that. I just want to share it. So.
Are you still monitoring ALC stuff?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. I was in Salem last week. Gosh, time. Last week for County Day at the Capitol. So.
You get a report on that?
I like Morrow County better than Salem. That's my report.
That's good enough for me.
This is where I belong.
Okay. All right, that's it for that. We're gonna have two executive sessions. But before we do, I'm gonna call a 5-minute recess. Then we're gonna come back to open meeting and then call the executive sessions. So 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll call the open meeting back to order from our county commission. And we will be holding 3 executive sessions grouped into one, or 3 topics in one executive session, and I will read what those are. ORS 192-6602H, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. The Morrow County Board of, the second one will be Morrow County Board of Commissioners will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-6602A, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff, member, or individual agent. And then The third one, ORS 192-6602D, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Now, we're gonna have anybody on Zoom?
So we have Andrea DeSalvo here. The labor negotiations is an exception on that, but we could put all of them into the.
Well, I just need to know whether to read the news media part. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. And when we open session, there is a potential decision or action item as a result of the executive session. Okay, so with that, I will call the executive session as order. Okay, we're coming out of executive session into regular session, and we're going to have two motions.
Okay. I move to authorize the county administrator to extend an employment offer for the principal planner position at up to grade 26, step 5.
Second. We moved to second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carried.
All right, and then I also move to approve the tentative agreements with the Morrow County Sergeants Association and direct staff to forward them for ratification by the association.
Second. We moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, I think that concludes our business for the day. We do have a land use hearing at 1:30.
Yes.
1:30. So just for general knowledge from the public. So if there's any other business, we're adjourned.
Good work today.